Yeah, Megan Campbell there in conversation with Keith Andrews on the brand new Keith Andrews Show, coming your way every Thursday on the Off the Ball social channels. It's 8:45 on this Friday morning. Delighted to have you along with us. We're going to talk football now. We're going to talk about Alexis Sanchez and Mkhitaryan going in opposite directions. Theo Walcott and the Ox agents running football and the massive fees they've been garnering and continue to garner. That figure is only on one very strong upward trend. Most ridiculous story of the year so far. VAR and get Kevin's thoughts possibly on the games at the weekend. And the Kevin we speak about is Kevin Kilbane, who's live from his mansion in Manchester. Morning, Kevin.
Good morning, lads. How you keeping?
How's it going?
Very good, very good. How are you?
Good. Peter Crouch to Chelsea. So last week we spoke about Andy Carroll. I certainly offered the idea that this was one of the most ridiculous stories I'd ever heard, and now it's been replaced by an even more ridiculous story. What are you thinking?
So is that actually been reported now?
It's been reported that Andy Carroll's ankle injury means he's out for a significant period of time, enough to put Chelsea off him, and that now they're turning their attentions to the great Peter Crouch, who turns 37, I think, this month.
Yeah, well, I heard Nathan talking about it on the show last night, and I thought it was bizarre when I heard that one. Regards Peter Crouch, that is. I don't understand it. I don't understand the logic. I don't understand the logic, first of all, in Andy Carroll, certainly for Chelsea. You only need to look at the way that Chelsea play, and you look at the style of football that they're trying to maybe implement. They rarely ever get into wide positions. They rarely ever get to the byline and swing crosses over to the far post. They're a side that like to do a lot of... It's kind of midfield players arriving from the edge of the penalty area. So it doesn't make sense to me. Perhaps it's even more bizarre. But Antonio Conte might want a different sort of striker because Batshuayi simply hasn't worked out there for Chelsea.
Yeah, or else it's just Antonio Conte, who there's more links this morning about Luis Enrique potentially getting his gig. Unless it's like Antonio Conte saying, listen, I'm out here anyway, so I'm going to do one of the most ridiculous things that's ever been done in football. Let's not rule that out.
The thing is, it's probably not him as well. I'm led to believe that Batshuayi simply wasn't his signing anyway. So he's had Batshuayi in there. He's rarely given him a chance. And he just doesn't look a Chelsea player. A lot of the balls bounce off, and his first touch looks quite poor at time. He doesn't look the sort of link-up man that Chelsea would need. And Morata simply isn't working at the moment. He's not in the greatest of form over the last month or so. Maybe, I don't know. You're saying he's just trying to balls the club up, and then that's it. He can walk away into the sunset with his few quid in his back pocket. Is that it then?
Might be just me, Kev, you know.
It's a good theory, I think.
Very cynical man, Adrian, yeah.
Like, if you're going to pick a crap striker to sign for Chelsea, it just doesn't make sense that Peter Crouch is the guy you go for, because Alvaro Morata, 6 of his 10 goals this season have come at his head. Peter Crouch is the all-time leading goal scorer when it comes to headers in the Premier League. You're literally signing somebody who will provide something different for Chelsea, who does the exact same thing that Alvaro Morata does well.
Yeah, but he's been struggling though.
Not with his head though, really.
Owen, hasn't he? Yeah, but he has been across the last. If you look at Morata over the last 6-8 weeks or so, his form has been quite poor. He hasn't been at it like he was early on this season. But you're right in saying it. A lot of the ball, you look at that link up he's had with Azpilicueta, deep crosses coming into the area. That's where he has been thriving. I mean, I don't know, lads. I'm probably Adrian's maybe almost laughing it off to start with, and I'm probably with you. It seems totally bizarre to me. Why on earth you'd go and get a player that's well into his 30s? There was talk of him actually retiring at the end of last season in general from football. Now all of a sudden Chelsea coming in for him. I find it absolutely bizarre. I genuinely can't see it. If they do go out and get someone like Peter Crouch, I don't understand what the benefits are in it.
Let's talk to you about some of these other transfers that are about to happen or have happened already. Definitely interested to get your thoughts on Theo Walcott's move to Everton. So this is sort of the constant great hope of English football that never quite really reached it. But, I mean, He's at Everton. He's got a manager like Big Sam who's going to put the arm around him and instill a whole bunch of confidence in him. And, I mean, you know, I'm interested to get your thoughts about where he and Rooney fit in, and also about that sort of Big Sam impact. Can he be the one who kicks Theo Walcott on here?
Well, I mean, it seems to me, and it seemed to me over the last few years, I think he needed to get away from Arsenal. I do. I think he's gone stale. His career is certainly levelled out dramatically over the last few years, and I think it's probably the right time for him to move. As for moving to Everton, Everton desperately need pace in the team. They're seriously lacking that. They've got a lot of players that can make passes. They've got players that like to drop deep. A lot of players that like to come towards the ball. They've not got a lot of threat running in behind opposition defences. Theo Walcott essentially should provide that with his pace, and I think from that aspect, I think it's a decent signing for Everton. The only thing I would say, and it's the same for Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain, it's the same even for Alexis Sanchez now as well, who looks as if he's leaving. I think there's got to be serious questions at Arsenal and how Arsene Wenger is developing his players, because there's so much potential with a lot of the players that they've signed. Alexis Sanchez over the last year has he progressed? I think he's actually, I wouldn't want to say gone backwards, but certainly levelled off again. Alexis Sanchez is another one, and it's almost as if you're looking at Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain now. You're looking at the level of performances he's producing for Liverpool, and you're scratching your head thinking, why isn't he able to produce this at Arsenal? Why weren't we seeing that on a consistent basis? Now. The same can be said for Walcott. I think Theo Walcott's looking at Oxlade-Chamberlain thinking, it might be better for me. It might be good for me to move away. I might get I might get different ideas going into my head. I might be able to work with a different coach. I might be able to play to a few of my strengths because of Arsene Wenger's methods, philosophies, whatever word you want to use. But Arsene Wenger, he essentially would say to his players, look, I trust you. You'll be able to go out and produce it without necessarily having that individual coach. And you look at Raheem Sterling. I look at him we were looking at him maybe 18 months ago, a year ago, when he'd first gone into City and thinking he might be the next Theo Walcott. He might be that player that doesn't necessarily go on and progress. Look what Raheem Sterling's done this season. Individual coaching, one-on-one basis. And I think that's why he's gone on, because Pep Guardiola has literally got into him and essentially seen his strengths and weaknesses and said, look, you need to be able to do various things within your game to help you get better. And I think that's why Walcott's desperate to get away from the place. I think that's why he might be a good signing for Everton going forward.
Yeah, just on that point about Arsene Wenger, Kev, I wonder, has he ever been good at developing talent? I think there's a very clear difference we need to outline here between talent identification and talent development, that Wenger has been able to spot all these really talented guys in the academy and they've never made it to the top level, and then people will be like, oh, well what about the likes of Thierry Henry and that? Well, like Henry, Bergkamp and Vieira came from AC Milan, Inter Milan and Juventus. These guys were probably going to make it to the top level anyway. The fact that he identified them, well, thumbs up for that. But I don't think he's ever been good at developing talent and making them overachieve.
Yeah, I would actually agree with that, Owen. I would, and I look at what Arsene Wenger had when he first went into Arsenal. When he first went into Arsenal, he had real characters, real leaders. He had real players on the training ground that would actually help players develop. I'm looking at the Keons, the Adams, the Dixons, the Winterburns, all these sort of players that were around that club when he first went in there. I think they helped the next generation, which was the Patrick Vieiras, the Emmanuel Petits, the Robert Perez. And I think then, even in turn, Martin Keown was still around when Henry, of course, signed for the club. I think he was driving standards every day. I don't think Arsene Wenger is that sort of manager that's driving the standard of training to a high level every single day. And I think that's largely down to the fact why the likes of Henry started to progress and do so well. Over the last 10 years, it's no coincidence that those real characters, those real leaders who were really, really good on the training ground have left Arsenal, and Arsenal have had a serious decline since then.
So, tangentially, Sanchez is leaving. We're told he's on his way to United. Apparently he had verbally agreed, I don't know where we've heard this story before, Kevin, but he verbally agreed to stay at Arsenal. He'd shaken hands on it. But it turns out that not worth the paper it's not printed on. So anyway, look, he's off to United. He's going to get 500 grand a week. I do wonder if, United have areas that they may need to strengthen in, other than up front. Is this a bit of a luxury buy for United?
Yeah, well, I think he certainly improves them, doesn't he? I think we know that he gives them something different. I think he can play through the middle. He can play off the left or off the right. Gives them a different option. I think the one area where Jose Mourinho this season is continuously, I think he's perhaps has missed a trick at times by not getting Martial and Rashford into the side. He's continuously played Mata. He's used Mkhitaryan early on this season off the right-hand side. I think it might be a chance to get Sanchez into the team, perhaps maybe on the right of a front three up front. I think it makes United a lot stronger. There's a lot around this deal that doesn't maybe sit well with me. Last 6 months of his contract, the fee that they're supposedly getting for him, I think that's huge. Agents' fees around this. The agents' fees is probably the more pressing matter, I think, within this one. 7 to 10 million, supposedly they say around about 10 million. The fee that Manchester City supposedly balked at. They were never going to pay that sort of fee for an agent. And United are paying it. United's agents' fees bill over the last 2 or 3 years has been astronomical. And I feel that it's way too high. I think the game maybe need to do something to stop this size of fee. I understand that an agent who's doing a great job for a player, his client, 10 to 15%, yes. But the agent's fees now, they're almost half what the transfer value is, or half what the player's contract's worth. I just think it's getting way out of hand. And I think that sort of money could be staying within the game. Yeah,
well, there was a report in the Telegraph yesterday that the Premier League and the Football League are going to launch a review into all of this and sort of see where they're going. I think it was like a 40% increase in Premier League agents' fees over the 12 months up to January 2017. I think it was up to over 200 million, or in that sort of range, up 60% in the Championship. Like, they're phenomenal monies. And from what you're saying, you obviously subscribe to this theory that this is money that isn't going back into the game. But like, in a lot of ways, it is kind of monopoly money that these clubs have, that they kind of throw around just to get business done.
But it's just, you still got to have an element of responsibility, though, Adrian. That's what I would say with it. And it seems that an agent now, as you say, it is monopoly money. There's so much money within the game now. So, as we've spoken about maybe in the past, transfer fees, wages, it's almost becoming irrelevant. So I suppose, yes, the agent's fees would rise off the back of that. But now, an agent can demand anything that he wants, and there's got to be some, because the legislation has changed over the last 4 or 5 years regarding agents' fees. Agents now can now demand anything they want. And how on earth can a club with anyone within the right mind start to be paying an agent 10 million? You look at Ross Barkley's deal. Ross Barkley moves for Chelsea for 15 million. An agent's paid 7 million off the back of it. It's just crazy stuff, and I just think it's wrong. I do think it's wrong. I don't see any sort of reasoning why an agent should be paid that sort of money. Mino Raiola, look at him, who's taken Ibrahimovic, he's taken Lukaku, he's taken Mkhitaryan to Man United. The fees that he's been paid over the last couple of years by Man United, it's just I find it bad for the game. I do. I don't think it's great in any way, shape or form, and I don't think it's going to change maybe going forward. And that's why I think the Premier League, the FA, whoever it's going to be, or maybe the authority in general, FIFA, I think they need to get hold of this one, because I think it's getting out of hand.
I don't fully agree with that, Kevin. UEFA released a report this week to show that agents got 13% of all transfers between 2013 and 2017. So I don't think they're exactly getting...
But we're talking at the top end, though, Owen. We're talking at the top end, which is always the case, that maybe starts to cloud maybe a lot of judgment. Across the board, that's 13%. But I think the top fees, how can you justify it, Ross Barkley going to Everton and an agent being paid 7 million? Well, actually, how can that be justified?
In this UEFA thing, they say the typical agent commission for smaller deals of less than 100,000 was 40%. So that would suggest that the smaller deals are actually getting a higher percentage in terms of an agent's fee. I just think, okay, I do agree with certain aspects that you're saying, and there is a problem here. But I do think there is an overreaction. Like, you have Alex Ferguson coming out and calling Mino Raiola a shitbag a couple of years ago, or was it last summer? And there's just this there's this picture painted of these agents as complete villains. Why haven't these players left their agents? If they're so bad for the game, why haven't the players left them? They're getting them a nice profit, as Adrian says, essentially monopoly money. The money's going to be in these football clubs anyway. And you have these Anderson quotes with Andy Mitten this week, which we spoke about. He loves George Mendes. He managed to get him a great deal. He managed to bring his football career to the level it could possibly get to. And essentially, I think that the players are the guys benefiting here. And if they were these villains that Alex Ferguson likes to paint them as, then I would see a lot more players. There would be an exodus almost from agents. No.
Yeah, well, I'd never suggest the villains, because at the end of the day, if an agent can get it, they're going to take that sort of money. The problem being, look how many agents are getting that sort of money. I would probably say it's 3 or 4 agents right at the top end. You look at the equal spread across the game within agency, and I think you find it wouldn't necessarily be being even spread. You look at George Mendes. Yeah, the reason why you're with those agents is because those agents have almost monopolised the game, where they've got the real top clubs. They've got all the chairmen, the owners of the football clubs. They've got their ears, and those owners and chairmen will only essentially, at the very, very top end, that is, deal with those big agents. So across the board, a lot of the agents are getting moved out of the game. They're not able to get into it, and it's almost as if they're getting pushed away, because those real top agents are getting all the deals. My big, how can, again, I go back to my point, what I was saying to there, Owen, how can it be right that agents are getting that type of fee from deals going into football clubs. Mino Raiola, that was when Paul Pogba was at United originally, when Alex Ferguson called him whatever he called him. He called him that because he was basically trying to manipulate Paul Pogba, and he's probably done right by Paul Pogba. And again, that's not my issue. But my issue is the size of fees that agents are getting paid now, because they're saying the top 5 or 6, maybe 10 players in the world, they're under 1 or 2 agents. So ultimately, an agent can demand what he wants to get that player into the football club. That cannot be right, I don't feel.
Yeah, like I had that UEFA thing about the lower clubs there, actually, because I wanted to ask you about that. And like just to repeat it again, that the smaller deals of less than 100 grand are garnering 40% towards the agent in these deals, which I just find absolutely incredible. Like I know you've got good sources at the likes of Preston North End and stuff, and I know that the deals would be bigger than 100 grand there, but maybe you know people down in League 1 and League 2 where 100 grand might be the going rate for a transfer here. Is this a serious problem down in those divisions that we don't know about? Like 40% seems absolutely ridiculous for a transfer.
Well, yeah, I think that is the thing. I mean, yeah, again, but just maybe back to the original point we're talking, the higher you go, the percentage it's less, obviously the more money that's going to be paid anyway, so we know that. But you're right in saying that. But it's always been a problem there, and we've had Fintan Drury on the show over the last year or two saying that when legislation changed, it was about 3 or 4 years ago now, within agency, it basically became an open court. It became an open ball because what happened was anyone could become an agent. You, I, agent, anyone can become an agent now, and that's the thing. What happens within the game now? You don't necessarily need a license. You could actually represent the player if you're doing the right thing by him, but the problem being, as you say, further down the line, even at youth football now, youth football agency within youth football, you see agents now, they're going scouting players at 7, 8, 9. We spoke about it this week. The money that's in the game at youth football within the academy system now, agents are starting to recognise that there's a way and there's opportunities for them at that level. And again, if you're doing the right job, I have got no problem with that. There is no issue with that as well. But that percentage of the fee, it's not in proportion with the rest of the game. And I don't know, there's a number of issues I think that do need to be addressed, but the top end is of real concern to me, I feel.
A couple of things before you go, Kev. Where are you at this weekend?
I'm with Nathan at Southampton on Sunday.
Yeah. 4 o'clock on Sunday. Very good, live on Off the Ball on Newstalk. There's been one question that's been nagging me, apart from where your branding is this week. You were very much on brand last week, but it seems to have sort of slipped off the radar this week. But there's been one question that's been nagging me over the entire conversation since you came on at the very start. What's in a Kevin Kilbane giant American-style fridge?
Oh, let me have a look first.
Come on, let's have a look. No, come on. Do the reveal on camera. Come on. You can't be having a cheeky peek.
Come on, lads.
Come on. I imagine there's like one bottle of Heineken. I don't know what you're thinking, but let's have a look. What could possibly be in there that you don't want us to see? This is... it's pretty well stacked.
A lot of chocolate in there.
Cadbury going on.
Lucozade.
Yeah. Beer, I knew there'd be beer. Look at the beer.
And
Kev, is there any actual food in there that's worth eating? Like, you probably have it for breakfast.
Eggs, of course.
Chocolate eggs. Look at this.
Yeah.
Oh my God, get yourself to the shop, man. That is... You're not a student anymore, Kev. You're 40, for God's sake. Listen, have a good weekend.
All right, lads.
And here, I like the earrings, by the way. Nice earrings.
Oh, cheers. Very good.
Good luck.
Good man. Take it easy, lads. Have a good weekend.
Good luck. Take it easy. Kevin Kilbane there on the line to talk football, as he does every Friday. Fridge full of beer.
Yeah, incredible. Hardly surprising.
Student 101 right there, isn't it?
Well, students wouldn't be having Bex to be more Dutch gold, so he's kind of like a middle class student, really.
Posh beer. You're all about the middle class, aren't you?